The helicopter descended through swirling autumn leaves, revealing a terrible geometry below. 47 rectangular concrete pads stretched across the valley floor in perfect rows, each one marking where a home had once stood. From above, it looked like a modern cemetery, precise, ordered, and utterly empty of life. "I promised him I'd never come here," Evelyn Hartwell whispered, her silver hair whipping across her face as she stared down at the forbidden ranch. After 20 years of marriage and 3 days of widowhood, she was finally breaking her sacred vow to Teddy. "Do you, Evelyn Margaret Chambers, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" The memory washed over her like warm summer rain. Their wedding day, 20 years earlier in 2004, had been picture perfect. A garden ceremony at her parents' estate, roses in full bloom, and Teddy looking at her with those kind brown eyes that had first captured her heart. "I do," she had said, meaning every syllable. The reception had sparkled with champagne and laughter. As evening fell, Teddy had led her away from the crowd, down to the small pond at the edge of the property. His expression had turned serious in the fading light. "Evelyn, I need to ask you something important," he'd said, taking both her hands in his. "There's a property I own called Blackwater Ranch in Wyoming. I need your promise that you'll never go there." She'd laughed at first, thinking it was a joke. "Is this where you hide all your ex-girlfriends?" But Teddy hadn't smiled. "I'm serious, Evelyn. It's the only thing I'll ever ask you to take on faith. Please promise me you'll never go there, never ask about it. It's complicated." Something in his eyes, a shadow of fear, perhaps, had stopped her questions. "I promise," she'd said, and for 20 years she had kept that promise. Through birthdays, anniversaries, career changes, and quiet Sunday mornings reading the paper together, she had never asked about Blackwater Ranch. Every month when Teddy would pack a small bag and say, "I need to check on some investments," she'd kiss him goodbye without a word about where he was going. Their marriage had been filled with love and laughter. Teddy's architectural firm had thrived, designing sustainable buildings across the country. They'd traveled the world together, built a beautiful home, supported each other's dreams. If there was one secret between them, Evelyn had made peace with it. Some mysteries, she believed, were better left undisturbed. Until 3 days ago, when Teddy hadn't returned from his morning run. The funeral had been a blur of black suits and murmured condolences. Janet, Evelyn's younger sister, had stayed by her side, a steady presence as Evelyn nodded mechanically at stories about Teddy's generosity, his brilliant mind, his kind heart. "Mrs. Hartwell?" A tall man with wire-rimmed glasses approached at the reception. "Franklin Bassett. I was your husband's attorney. When you're ready, we need to discuss some urgent matters regarding his estate." Now, alone in Teddy's home office the night after the funeral, Evelyn sat at his desk, a single lamp casting shadows across the polished wood. She'd found the journal accidentally, searching for insurance papers. Bound in worn leather, its pages were filled with Teddy's precise architect's handwriting, coordinates, dates, names she didn't recognize, and cryptic notes that made no sense. On the final page, dated just 2 weeks earlier, he'd written, "If anything happens to me, E must know the truth. Coordinates to primary facility, 44.763 degrees N, 107.2903 degree W. The key is in the model of the Sydney Opera House." Evelyn's hands trembled as she walked to the bookshelf where Teddy kept his architectural models. The small replica of the Sydney Opera House had always been his favorite. She lifted it carefully, turning it over to find a small compartment she'd never noticed before. Inside was a simple USB drive. Her laptop hummed to life, the screen illuminating her tear-stained face as she inserted the drive. A single video file appeared. Teddy's face filled the screen, his expression grave. "Evelyn, my love, if you're watching this, something has happened to me. I've spent 20 years keeping a promise to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. Now I need to ask you to break your promise to me. You need to go to Blackwater Ranch. Everything is explained there. But you must hurry. There are people who will try to erase what I've built. The coordinates are in my journal. I'm so sorry for the secrets. I hope someday you'll understand why I couldn't tell you. I love you more than anything in this world." The video ended abruptly. Evelyn sat motionless, staring at the frozen image of her husband's face. Her phone buzzed with a text message from a number she didn't recognize. "Mrs. Hartwell, this is Franklin Bassett. Urgent matters have come up regarding Wyoming property. Meridian Environmental Services filing for immediate cleanup operation, beginning Monday. Please call immediately." Today was Friday. Whatever Teddy had been protecting was about to be erased in less than 72 hours. Franklin Bassett's office overlooked downtown Atlanta, the city lights twinkling through floor-to-ceiling windows. Despite the late hour, the attorney had agreed to meet Evelyn immediately. "Mrs. Hartwell, I apologize for texting you so late. Normally, I'd give you time to grieve, but circumstances are pressing." He gestured to a leather chair across from his massive desk. Evelyn sat. "Mr. Bassett, I just watched a video from my husband suggesting that his death might not have been an accident. I'd like some straight answers. I was afraid of this." He removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Your husband maintained unusual legal arrangements regarding Blackwater Ranch. The property technically belongs to a trust, with you as the sole beneficiary, but with conditions." "What kind of conditions?" "To gain control of the property, you must personally visit the main facility within 7 days of his death and enter a specific code into the security system. The code changes daily. Today's is in this envelope." He slid a sealed envelope across the desk. "If you don't complete this task by Wednesday at midnight, control of the property defaults to Meridian Environmental Services for ecological remediation." That makes no sense. Why would Teddy create such impossible conditions? Your husband was cautious. He wanted to ensure only you would make decisions about the property's future. Bassett hesitated. "There's more. The annual property tax is $247,000. There are significant monthly expenses for maintenance and security. All were paid through a series of shell companies Teddy created. How could he afford this? We live well, but not that well. That brings me to another matter." Bassett pulled out another document. "Your husband had a $73 million life insurance policy. The beneficiary is you, with specific instructions that a portion be used to maintain Blackwater Ranch. $73 million? Evelyn felt the room tilt slightly. "That's impossible. I would have known." The policy was purchased through one of his business entities. Very few people knew about it. Bassett looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Hartwell, I've been your husband's attorney for 15 years. In that time, I've learned not to ask too many questions about Blackwater Ranch. Teddy was adamant about protecting whatever is there. And now Meridian Environmental Services wants to clean it up. What does that mean exactly?" They filed an emergency petition claiming environmental hazards that require immediate remediation. "They're moving with unusual speed. The bulldozers arrive Monday morning. Can we stop them legally? We could try for an injunction, but without knowing what's actually on the property." He spread his hands helplessly. Teddy always handled these challenges personally. How? What did he do when companies tried this before? "I don't know. He never shared his methods with me." Evelyn studied the attorney's face. He was hiding something, but pushing him wouldn't help. She stood, gathering her purse and Teddy's journal. "Thank you for meeting me, Mr. Bassett. I'll need all the documentation you have on Blackwater Ranch." "Of course. I'll have everything sent to your home tomorrow morning." His relief at her departure was palpable. "Mrs. Hartwell, whatever you decide to do, please be careful. Your husband went to extraordinary lengths to protect that property. There must have been a reason." Back home, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She prowled through Teddy's office, searching for clues. In the back of his closet, behind rows of tailored suits, she found a locked cabinet she'd never noticed before. The key had been hanging in plain sight among his everyday keys, distinguished only by a small black dot. Inside the cabinet were 3 encrypted phones, a stack of medical textbooks with highlighted passages, and architectural blueprints for what appeared to be underground structures. A folder labeled Meridian contained newspaper clippings about industrial accidents and corporate settlements. Most disturbing was a notebook filled with what looked like medical data, heart rates, medication dosages, and technical specifications for something called cardiac implant remote access protocols. Teddy had circled certain entries in red, with question marks and the word vulnerable scrawled in the margins. Dawn was breaking when Evelyn's phone rang. It was Janet. "Evie, are you all right? I've been worried sick." "I'm fine, Jan. Just discovering things about Teddy I never knew." "Like what?" "He had secrets, big ones." A pause. "Is this about his monthly trips? I always thought they were strange. You never said anything. What was I supposed to say?" "Hey, I think your perfect husband might be hiding something." "You were happy, Evie." "I was." Evelyn's voice caught. "But now I don't know what to believe." "What are you going to do?" Evelyn looked at the evidence spread across the floor. The blueprint of a place she'd promised never to visit, the encrypted phones, the mysterious medical notes. "I'm going to Wyoming. Today." "I'm coming with you," Janet said. "No. This is something I need to do alone." Evelyn's tone left no room for argument. "But I need a favor. I need you to find someone who can fly me to a remote ranch." "A pilot?" "Evie, what's going on?" "I wish I knew, Jan. I really wish I knew." An hour later, Janet texted with a name. Rosa Delgado, a helicopter pilot who specialized in mountain terrain. "She's expecting your call. Be careful, Evie. Whatever Teddy was involved in, just be careful." Evelyn stared at the filing from Meridian Environmental Services that Bassett had forwarded. Bold red letters declared, "I am immediate remediation required," and outlined plans for complete demolition beginning Monday morning. The corporate letterhead featured a serene mountain landscape with the slogan, "Protecting Nature's Balance." There was nothing balanced about the elevator doors. Urgency of their filing. Whatever Teddy had been protecting for 20 years, Meridian was determined to destroy it within days of his death. The small municipal airport outside Sheridan, Wyoming, bustled with weekend activity, mostly tourists heading into the mountains for autumn hiking. Evelyn stood beside her single suitcase, scanning the tarmac for her pilot. After a sleepless flight from Atlanta, exhaustion tugged at her, but determination pushed it aside. "Mrs. Hartwell?" A woman in her early 40s approached. Her weathered face spoke of years in the sun, and her dark eyes held a wariness that seemed to match Evelyn's own. "Rosa Delgado. Your sister said you need to reach Blackwater Ranch." Evelyn nodded. "Thank you for agreeing to this on such short notice." Janet mentioned it was urgent. Rosa studied her with unconcealed curiosity. "That's private property, restricted airspace, technically. My husband owned it. He died 3 days ago. I'm sorry for your loss." She hesitated. "The name Hartwell. Was your husband Theodore Hartwell, the architect?" "Yes. Did you know him?" "No, but—" Rosa glanced around the busy terminal. "Let's talk in the helicopter." They walked across the tarmac to a sleek blue and white helicopter. Once inside, Rosa began her pre-flight checks with practiced efficiency. "My daughter was an environmental journalist," she said abruptly, eyes fixed on the control panel. "Maria. 2 years ago, she was investigating corporate cover-ups of toxic waste dumping. She mentioned a man named Hartwell who was helping whistleblowers." Evelyn's heart quickened. "What happened to her?" "Car accident. Brake lines cut. Police called it a tragic mechanical failure." Her voice was flat, stripped of emotion through repeated telling. "She was getting close to something big, involving a company called Meridian Environmental. Meridian is trying to seize my husband's property," Evelyn said quietly. "Then we'd better hurry." The helicopter lifted smoothly, banking toward the mountains rising in the distance. As they gained altitude, Rosa handed Evelyn a headset to communicate over the rotor noise. "Your coordinates lead to a valley about 40 minutes from here," Rosa said. "Isolated place. Locals call it Blackwater Valley because of the dark river that runs through it. The landscape below transformed from small towns and farmland to rugged wilderness. Pine forests gave way to rocky outcroppings, the autumn colors painting the mountainsides in brilliant reds and golds. "Did you ever try to find out what your daughter was investigating?" Evelyn asked. "Every day for 2 years," Rosa replied. "I've hit nothing but dead ends and warnings to stop asking questions." She adjusted their course slightly. "We're approaching the coordinates. Blackwater Valley is just beyond this ridge." The helicopter crested the mountain, and suddenly the valley spread before them. Evelyn gasped. From above, the devastation was shocking. What must have once been a small community lay in ruins. Rectangular concrete foundations, 47 of them, precisely arranged, stretched across the valley floor. All structures had been razed, leaving only the footprints of buildings. "My God," Evelyn whispered. "What happened here?" Rosa circled lower. This wasn't a natural disaster. Look at the pattern of destruction, too clean, too complete. This was controlled demolition. At the center of the devastated community stood a single large building, still intact. Unlike the home foundations, this structure was built into the hillside, partially underground. A gravel road wound from this central building to what appeared to be a landing pad. "Can we set down there?" Evelyn pointed to the landing area. Rosa nodded. As they touched down, Evelyn noticed solar panels glinting on the central building's roof. Someone was maintaining power. "This doesn't look abandoned," Rosa observed as they removed their headsets. "The landing pad is clear of debris. Someone's been keeping it ready for use." Evelyn climbed out, the mountain air crisp in her lungs. The silence was profound. No birds, no wind, just the fading whine of the helicopter's engine powering down. "I'll come with you," Rosa said. When Evelyn began to protest, the pilot added firmly, "My daughter died trying to find whatever truth is hidden here. I'm not waiting in the helicopter." They walked together along a gravel path toward the main building. Each concrete foundation they passed told the same story. Homes destroyed with surgical precision, leaving nothing but flat slabs. No debris, no remnants, just empty rectangles marking where people had once lived. "This wasn't just property," Evelyn said. "This was a community." As they approached the central building, a security camera mounted above the entrance swiveled to track their movement. Beside the heavy steel door was a keypad waiting for a code. Evelyn removed the envelope Franklin Bassett had given her. Inside was a sequence of numbers and letters, changing daily. Today's code, 7HEVA, 2210 promise. Her hands trembled as she entered the sequence. For 20 years, she had kept her promise to never come here. Now, breaking that vow might be the only way to honor Teddy's memory. The keypad flashed green. The heavy door unlocked with a pneumatic hiss. The door swung open to reveal a modern, well-lit entrance hall. Motion-activated lights flickered on ahead of them, illuminating a corridor that sloped gently downward into the hillside. The air was surprisingly fresh for an underground facility, suggesting an advanced ventilation system. "Someone's maintaining this place," Rosa observed. "No dust, no cobwebs." Evelyn nodded, moving cautiously forward. The walls were lined with framed architectural drawings, all in Teddy's distinctive style. Each showed different aspects of the facility they were now entering: living quarters, medical facilities, hydroponic gardens. "He designed all of this," Evelyn murmured. "This was his life's work, and I never knew." The corridor opened into a circular control room dominated by a horseshoe-shaped desk with multiple computer monitors. All were dark except one, which displayed a pulsing message. "Identity confirmed. Evelyn Hartwell. Access granted to primary protocols." Beneath the message was a simple prompt, "Play final message?" Evelyn took a deep breath and pressed yes. The monitors around the room suddenly illuminated, each showing the same image: Teddy, sitting in what appeared to be this very room. He looked tired, his normally neat appearance slightly disheveled. The timestamp showed the recording was made just 10 days earlier. "Evelyn," he began, "if you're watching this, then I'm gone, and you've broken your promise to never come here. Thank you for that." Some promises are meant to be broken when the cost of keeping them becomes too high. He shifted in his chair, running a hand through his gray hair, a gesture so familiar it made Evelyn's heart ache. I need to tell you a story that began 25 years ago, 5 years before we met. I was a young architect working on a corporate campus for Meridian Industries in Texas. During construction, one of the workers, Miguel Espinoza, discovered documents proving the company was secretly dumping toxic chemicals that were poisoning a nearby community. The screen split to show photographs of a young Latino family, a man, woman, and 2 small children. Miguel and his wife Carmen came to me because I had access to the building plans. They needed a safe place to copy documents before going to authorities. I helped them, naively thinking the system would protect them. Teddy's expression darkened. 3 days later, their house burned down with them inside. The police called it an electrical fire. Their children survived only because they were staying with an aunt that night. Evelyn gasped softly, her hand flying to her mouth. I knew it wasn't an accident. The documents Miguel had gathered disappeared from his workplace locker. The investigation was closed in record time, and the company executive who had been implicated received a promotion the following month. Teddy leaned forward. I couldn't let it go, Evelyn. I tracked down the Espinoza children, Maria and Luis. Their aunt was terrified, convinced the fire had been deliberate. I used my savings to help them relocate, create new identities. And I made a promise to myself that I would create a place where people like the Espinozas could be safe. The screen changed to show architectural plans, dated 1999, the initial design for Blackwater Ranch. I purchased this land through shell companies, designed the community to be self-sufficient and secure. Over time, it evolved into a sanctuary for whistleblowers, witnesses, and others targeted by powerful interests. For 25 years, we've helped people rebuild their lives until it was safe for them to re-enter society, or in some cases, provided a permanent home for those who could never safely emerge. Images flashed across the screens, families gardening together, children playing in what appeared to be an underground school, medical facilities where injured people were being treated. When we met, I was already 5 years into this project. I fell in love with you instantly, Evelyn, but I was terrified that my work would put you in danger. That's why I asked for your promise never to come here. I wanted to keep these 2 worlds separate, to protect both you and the people who depended on me. Teddy's face filled all the screens again, his expression pained. Every month when I told you I was checking on investments, I was coming here. Every secret phone call, every encrypted email, it was all to protect these people, and I hated lying to you. It has been the greatest regret of my life, creating this distance between us. He paused, swallowing hard. Blackwater Ranch is just one of 12 sanctuaries across the country. Each operates independently, but we coordinate to relocate people when necessary. Over the years, Meridian Environmental, a company that evolved from Meridian Industries, has systematically targeted these sanctuaries. 3 years ago, they discovered this location. The screens showed satellite images of the valley, timestamps indicating they were taken over the past 3 years. They couldn't move against us directly. Too many questions would be raised. So they began a campaign of psychological warfare. First, legal challenges about water rights and property boundaries. Then, mysterious accidents befalling our supply deliveries. Finally, they started targeting our founders and supporters. His voice grew grim. 6 months ago, they began systematically destroying the residential structures, always when they were empty, always with perfect precision. It was a message: we can reach you anytime. We evacuated most residents to other sanctuaries, keeping only the central facility operational. Teddy reached for something off camera, returning with a medical device Evelyn recognized, a pacemaker, similar to the one he'd had implanted 2 years earlier after a minor heart episode. Last month, I discovered something terrifying. 3 other sanctuary founders died of sudden cardiac events within weeks of each other. All had cardiac devices from the same manufacturer. All deaths were ruled natural causes. He held up the pacemaker. These devices can be remotely accessed for monitoring. In the wrong hands, that access can be weaponized. Evelyn felt her blood run cold. Teddy's sudden death during his morning jog. His heart simply stopped. I've been gathering evidence, preparing a case to expose everything, but I fear I've run out of time. His expression softened. Evelyn, my love, I'm so sorry to leave you with this burden. In the evidence room down the hall, you'll find everything I've collected. The people who were living here have been relocated, but they're still in danger. Meridian won't stop until all evidence of their crimes is destroyed and every witness is silenced. Teddy's eyes filled with tears. I love you more than anything in this world. Forgive me for the secrets. Whatever you decide to do with this information, expose it, walk away, continue the work. I will understand. This was my fight, not yours. But it became the most important work of my life, and I couldn't abandon these people. The image froze on Teddy's face, then faded to black. A message appeared. Additional files accessible from main terminal. Evelyn stood motionless, tears streaming down her face. The man she had loved for 20 years had lived a double life, not of betrayal, but of profound courage. He had built a refuge for the hunted, protected the vulnerable, and ultimately given his life for them. Rosa's voice broke the silence. Your husband was trying to help people like my Maria. Her voice cracked. She was trying to expose Meridian too. Evelyn wiped her tears. Teddy said, "There's an evidence room. Let's find it." As they turned to leave the control room, a red light began flashing on one of the monitors. A security alert scrolled across the screen. Perimeter breach detected. Vehicle approaching from the north access road. Is there a security system? Rosa asked. Evelyn quickly returned to the main computer, finding a menu labeled Security. A click revealed multiple camera views of the property. On the north road, a dusty pickup truck was making its way toward the central facility. Can you tell who it is? Rosa asked. No, but they're using the access road, not coming in secretly. Evelyn studied the other security options. There's a speaker system. We could try to communicate with them. Before she could act, another alert flashed. Vehicle recognized. Authorized maintenance personnel. Evelyn relaxed slightly. It seems they're expected. Your husband might be gone, but someone's still taking care of this place, Rosa observed. We should explore more before they arrive. What was that evidence room he mentioned? They left the control room, following a corridor deeper into the facility. Each section revealed more of the sanctuary's sophistication. They passed hydroponic gardens where vegetables grew under specialized lighting, a small medical clinic equipped with modern equipment, and what appeared to be classrooms with desks sized for both children and adults. This wasn't just a hiding place, Evelyn said in awe. It was a community. People lived here, learned here. Your husband built them a small town underground, Rosa marveled. The corridor widened into a large open space, clearly the heart of the sanctuary. Soft lighting illuminated what appeared to be a community gathering area, with comfortable seating arranged in conversational groupings. One wall was dedicated to a kitchen and dining area that could serve dozens, but it was the opposite wall that drew Evelyn's attention. Floor to ceiling, it was covered with photographs, hundreds of them, each with a small plaque beneath. As she moved closer, she realized it was a gallery of faces spanning 25 years. The people who found sanctuary here, she whispered. Families with children, elderly couples, individuals of all ages and backgrounds. Some photos showed people arriving, looking haunted, afraid. Adjacent images showed the same people later, smiling, healing. A section labeled The Courage Gallery held newspaper clippings alongside photographs. Headlines told stories of corporate whistleblowers, witnesses to crimes, environmental activists, all who had faced deadly retaliation for speaking truth. Rosa suddenly gasped. Maria, she whispered, pointing to a photograph of a young woman with her dark eyes and determined expression. My daughter. The plaque beneath read, Maria Delgado, environmental journalist. Documented illegal toxic dumping by Meridian subsidiaries in 7 states. Killed before reaching sanctuary. 2022. Rosa's hands trembled as she touched the photograph. She was trying to get here. She knew about this place. Evelyn put an arm around the pilot's shoulders. Teddy was trying to help her. I'm so sorry he couldn't reach her in time. Beyond the Courage Gallery was a narrow hallway with a sign reading, Memorial Wall. Here, the photographs were fewer but more formal, 34 portraits of men and women of different ages and backgrounds. The Wall of Heroes, said a voice behind them. Evelyn and Rosa turned to find an elderly man standing in the doorway. His weathered face and calloused hands spoke of a lifetime of physical work, but his eyes were sharp and assessing. I'm Joseph Running Bear, he said. I maintain the physical systems here. When the security system notified me that Evelyn Hartwell had arrived, I came as quickly as I could. You knew Teddy? Evelyn asked. Joseph nodded solemnly. For 23 years, he saved my life and many others. He gestured to the Wall of Heroes. These are the founders and protectors of the Sanctuary Network. 12 sanctuaries, 34 key people who built them, maintained them, and protected them. 11 have been killed in the past 2 years. Evelyn's eyes found Teddy's portrait among them, recently added. The frame still shiny and new, Joseph continued. Teddy suspected his heart device had been compromised. He left instructions in case his fears proved correct. How many people are still depending on this sanctuary? Rosa asked. 34, Joseph replied. Most were relocated when the systematic destruction began, but these 34 cannot risk moving again. Their cases are too high profile, their identities too easily tracked. They remain connected to the Sanctuary Network but are dispersed in safe locations nearby. He turned to Evelyn, his expression grave. Teddy always said if anything happened to him, you would come. He believed in you completely. I didn't even know this place existed until yesterday, Evelyn admitted. He said you had the strongest moral compass of anyone he'd ever known. That once you understood what was at stake, you would do the right thing, no matter how difficult. Evelyn felt the weight of Teddy's faith in her, a faith she wasn't sure she deserved. He mentioned an evidence room. We need to see what he collected. This way. As they followed him deeper into the facility, Evelyn noticed Rosa lingering at Maria's photograph, her fingers tracing her daughter's face. I'll be right there, Rosa called. I just need a moment. Joseph led Evelyn down another corridor to a heavy door marked simply Archives. He entered a code, and the door swung open to reveal what looked like a war room from a spy movie. Maps covered the walls, with pins and strings connecting various locations. Filing cabinets lined one wall, while a large table in the center held stacks of organized documents. Teddy called this his evidence room, Joseph explained. Everything he gathered about Meridian's crimes is here. He was preparing to release it all when he trailed off. When they killed him, Evelyn finished softly, by hacking his pacemaker. Joseph nodded grimly. The same method they used on 3 other sanctuary founders. Untraceable. Looks like natural causes, the perfect crime. Evelyn approached the central table, where a thick binder lay open. The label on its spine read simply, The Kill Pattern. What is this? She asked. The evidence he compiled about how Meridian systematically destroys sanctuaries and eliminates witnesses, Joseph replied. It's all there. Their methodology, their shell companies, the people involved. As Evelyn turned the pages, the horrifying scope of Meridian's operations became clear. This wasn't just about silencing a few whistleblowers. It was a sophisticated operation to eliminate anyone who threatened their corporate interests. 34 people still depend on this sanctuary, she said, and Meridian's bulldozers arrive Monday morning. Teddy always said that if something happened to him, you would know what to do. Evelyn stared at the evidence of her husband's secret life, his courage, his sacrifice, his unwavering commitment to protecting the vulnerable. She thought of the promise she had kept for 20 years and the one she was making now, to a man who could no longer hear her. I don't know what to do yet, she admitted, but I know I can't walk away. Not now, not after seeing all this. Rosa appeared in the doorway, her grief replaced by determination. The truck is parked outside. I think your maintenance man is looking for us. Joseph nodded. We should join the others. They'll be connecting soon. Others? Evelyn asked. The survivors, Joseph explained. They're scattered for safety, but they stay connected. Teddy's protocols were clear. If he died, you would come, and the network would need to make decisions together. They're waiting to meet you. As they left the evidence room, Evelyn's phone buzzed with a text message. It was Janet. Evie, something strange is happening. 2 men came to your house asking questions about Teddy's work in Wyoming. They claimed to be from the EPA, but wouldn't leave business cards. What have you gotten yourself into? Evelyn showed the message to Joseph, whose expression darkened. It's starting already. Meridian is looking for you, and for anything Teddy might have left behind. Then we need to move quickly, Evelyn said, a plan beginning to form in her mind. Where do we meet these survivors? The evidence room was even more extensive than Evelyn had initially realized. Beyond the main area Joseph had shown them was a secondary chamber, accessible through a hidden door designed to look like part of the wall. Joseph pressed his palm against an unmarked panel, and the wall slid open silently. Teddy built redundancies into everything, Joseph explained. This inner room contains the most sensitive information, the evidence that would be most damaging to Meridian, and most dangerous to anyone who possesses it. The inner sanctuary was smaller but even more meticulously organized. A timeline dominated one wall, chronicling 25 years of Meridian's evolution from a regional industrial company to a global environmental services corporation. Red markers indicated incidents, chemical spills, whistleblower deaths, litigation mysteriously settled or dismissed. This is what Maria was investigating, Rosa said softly. The pattern of convenient accidents, the regulatory captures, the judges who always ruled in Meridian's favor. Evelyn approached a cabinet labeled Sanctuary Network. Inside were detailed files on all 12 sanctuaries, including architectural plans, security systems, and evacuation protocols. A map showed their locations spread across the country, remote properties in Wyoming, Montana, New Mexico, Alaska, and other isolated areas. 3 have already been destroyed completely, Joseph said, pointing to locations marked with black X's. 4 others, including this one, have been partially compromised. 5 remain fully operational and unknown to Meridian, as far as we can tell. Evelyn opened a thick binder labeled The Kill Pattern, Methodologies. Inside was Teddy's detailed analysis of how Meridian systematically eliminated threats. He identified their 5-step approach, Joseph explained as Evelyn flipped through the pages. First, legal intimidation, lawsuits, cease and desist letters, regulatory complaints. Second, financial strangulation, freezing assets, canceling contracts, pressuring employers. Third, reputation destruction, planting false stories, creating scandals, isolating the targets socially. And if those don't work, Evelyn asked. Fourth, natural accidents, car brake failures, gas leaks, and drownings. And finally, if the target is still somehow standing, medical interventions, food poisoning that triggers existing conditions, contaminated medications, and more recently, remote device hacking. Rosa's face had gone pale. Maria's brake lines. That was stage 4. Yes, Joseph confirmed gently. She had already weathered their legal attacks, financial pressure, and a smear campaign calling her work fabricated sensationalism. When she still wouldn't back down, they moved to more permanent solutions. Evelyn turned to a section labeled Founder Assassinations, photographs of 11 people, men and women of various ages and backgrounds, stared back at her. Beside each was a detailed report of their death. The similarities were chilling. Alan Brinkman, cardiac arrest while jogging, 2022. Margaret Chen, cardiac arrest during sleep, 2023. William Okafor, cardiac arrest during swimming, 2023. Evelyn read the patterns aloud. All had cardiac implants. All deaths ruled natural causes. And now Teddy, Joseph added quietly. Cardiac arrest during morning run, 2024. Evelyn closed the binder, unable to bear seeing her husband's name added to the list. She moved to another section of the room where medical documents were arranged chronologically. Teddy was building a case around the cardiac devices, Joseph explained. He discovered that all the founders who died had their devices remotely accessed shortly before their deaths. The logs showed routine monitoring from the manufacturer, but the timing was too coincidental. Could he prove the devices were hacked? Rosa asked. Not conclusively, but he found something else. Joseph pulled out a folder labeled PackLead Initiative. Meridian created a special division 5 years ago, the Patient Accessible Cardiac Leads Program, ostensibly to develop better monitoring technology for heart patients. But their internal documents, which Teddy obtained from a whistleblower inside the company, tell a different story. The documents detailed research into remote access capabilities of cardiac implants, with particular attention to maximum parameter adjustments and silent protocol implementations. They were weaponizing medical devices, Evelyn whispered, horrified. Yes, Joseph confirmed. Teddy believed at least 17 people have been killed this way. The sanctuary founders were just the most recent targets. Evelyn moved to a section focused specifically on Meridian's financial operations. Ledgers and bank records showed money flowing through dozens of shell companies. One document caught her eye, a profit analysis titled Sanctuary Property Acquisitions. They've made over $2.1 billion from destroying Sanctuary networks, she said, scanning the figures. They seize the properties through environmental claims, remediate them at taxpayer expense, then develop them into luxury resorts and private hunting reserves. It's not just about silencing whistleblowers anymore, Joseph said. It's become a profitable business model. Identify sanctuaries, eliminate founders, claim environmental hazards, acquire the land for pennies on the dollar, develop it for massive profit. Rosa had been examining another section of documents. There's more, she said. Profiles on all 34 current survivors, their backgrounds, their evidence against Meridian, their medical histories, their family connections. She looked up, eyes wide with horror. They're planning to eliminate them all. Evelyn felt sick. These weren't just files. They were human beings who had risked everything to expose corruption and were now being hunted for it. Doctors who had documented toxic exposure symptoms in communities near Meridian facilities, engineers who had refused to falsify safety reports, accountants who had found evidence of massive fraud, regular people who had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time, witnessing something they shouldn't have. Teddy's final project was compiling everything into what he called the complete case, Joseph said, pointing to a sealed container on a high shelf. All the evidence, all the connections, all the names of Meridian executives involved. He finished it 2 days before he died. Evelyn reached for the container, but Joseph stopped her. Once you open that, you become their primary target. Teddy was very clear about that. He wanted you to understand everything first, then decide if you were willing to take on that risk. A notification chimed from Joseph's phone. It's time, he said. The survivors are connecting for the emergency council. They're waiting to meet you. As they turned to leave the evidence room, Evelyn paused at a framed photograph she hadn't noticed before. It showed Teddy standing with a group of children in what appeared to be the sanctuary's classroom. His face was alight with joy as the children showed him art projects and science experiments. He came alive when he was here, Joseph said. He told me once that while he loved his public life as an architect, his real purpose was building places where truth could safely exist. Evelyn touched the image of her husband's smiling face. I never knew this side of him. He protected you by keeping you separate from this world, Joseph replied. But he also said that if the day ever came when worlds had to collide, you would be the strongest ally the Sanctuary Network could possibly have. I'm not sure I'm as strong as he believed. We're about to find out, Joseph said. The communication center occupied what had once been a large classroom. Rows of desks had been pushed aside to make room for a circular arrangement of screens and equipment. Joseph worked quickly, activating systems and establishing secure connections. Each survivor has a secure communication device, he explained. They'll connect through encrypted channels that bounce signals through multiple servers. It makes their locations untraceable. Rosa examined the sophisticated setup. This is military-grade equipment. Teddy had friends in many places, Joseph replied. People who believed in what we were doing and contributed in ways they could. One of our first sanctuary residents was a cybersecurity expert who designed this system. The screens flickered to life one by one, each displaying a face, some clearly visible, others partially shadowed or shown only in silhouette. 34 windows, 34 people whose lives depended on the sanctuary network Teddy had built. These are the remaining high-risk survivors, Joseph explained quietly to Evelyn. Scientists, engineers, former employees, witnesses, all with evidence against Meridian that could destroy the company if it came to light. An older woman's face appeared on the central screen, her silver hair pulled back severely, her expression grave but kind. Joseph, we've been waiting. Is it true? Is Evelyn Hartwell with you? Yes, Marie, Joseph replied. Evelyn, this is Marie Running Bear, my wife. She coordinates communication between survivors. Marie's eyes locked onto Evelyn through the screen. Theodore spoke of you often. He was so careful to keep you safe from all of this. She gestured to encompass the sanctuary system. We hoped we would never need to meet like this. I wish we were meeting under different circumstances, Evelyn replied. I'm still trying to understand everything Teddy built and everything he was fighting against. Then let us help you understand, Marie said. She turned to address the other screens. Friends, this is Evelyn Hartwell. As Theodore outlined in our emergency protocols, she must decide the future of the sanctuary network and the evidence we've gathered. But first, she needs to hear from us. One by one, survivors began to speak. A chemical engineer described discovering toxic contamination in groundwater near a Meridian facility, being fired when he reported it, then finding his home vandalized and his children threatened. A financial analyst detailed massive fraud in Meridian's environmental remediation contracts, with taxpayers paying for cleanups that never happened. A former security guard recounted witnessing company executives ordering the destruction of evidence before a regulatory inspection. Each story followed a similar dark pattern: discovery of wrongdoing, attempts to report it through proper channels, then escalating retaliation that eventually forced them into hiding. A young woman, speaking from a dimly lit room, caught Evelyn's particular attention. My name is Carmen Espinoza, she said. My parents were Miguel and Carmen Espinoza, killed 25 years ago after my father discovered Meridian's illegal dumping. Evelyn recognized the name from Teddy's video. You're one of the children he helped, Carmen nodded. I was 7 when Mr. Hartwell helped my aunt relocate us. He created new identities for us and paid for our education. When I grew up, I became an environmental lawyer to fight companies like Meridian. 3 years ago, when they connected me to my real identity, I had to disappear into the sanctuary network. Your brother, Luis? Evelyn asked. He works for Meridian now. He believes our parents' death was an accident and that I'm paranoid. We haven't spoken in years. The stories continued. A doctor who documented unusual cancer clusters near Meridian facilities, a truck driver who refused to dump toxic waste in a river, a journalist who connected multiple environmental disasters to Meridian subsidiaries. Each had lost their former life. Many had lost family connections. All lived in constant fear. We've existed in the shadows for years, Marie explained. Some for decades. The sanctuary network has been our only protection. But now Teddy is gone and Meridian is closing in. They'll be at Blackwater Ranch with bulldozers on Monday morning, Evelyn said. We have less than 48 hours. It's not just Blackwater. A man's voice interjected from one of the screens. His face was hidden, showing only a silhouette. My name is Daniel. I worked in Meridian's legal department before I discovered what they were really doing. They're making coordinated moves against all the remaining sanctuaries. They've filed emergency environmental remediation requests in 5 different states, all scheduled to begin next week. This is their endgame, Marie said gravely. With Teddy gone, they believe the network is vulnerable. They intend to destroy all physical evidence and eliminate anyone who could testify against them. So, what do we do? Rosa asked. The survivors turned their attention to her. My daughter Maria died, trying to expose these people. What's our plan? Marie looked to Evelyn. According to Teddy's protocols, that decision lies with his wife. She controls the evidence now. She must decide whether to release it, destroy it, or use it in some other way. All eyes turned to Evelyn. The weight of 34 lives and the legacy of her husband's work pressed down on her. These people had suffered so much already, had lost so much. What right did she have to make decisions that would affect their very survival? "I need to know what you want," she said finally. "This is your life at stake, not mine. What do you believe we should do?" Marie nodded approvingly. "A fair question. Let's take a vote. 3 options. 1. We destroy all evidence and disappear deeper, abandoning the sanctuaries but preserving our safety. 2. We turn everything over to federal authorities and hope for protection. 3. We fight back with a coordinated public exposure of Meridian's crimes. One by one, the survivors cast their votes. Despite the different risks each faced, the result was unanimous. 34-0 for option 3. Carmen Espinoza spoke for the group. "We've been hiding for too long. I've spent 25 years in the shadows because of what my father discovered. I don't want to spend the next 25 the same way." "None of us do." An older man added, "I haven't seen my grandchildren in 7 years. I want them to know I didn't run because I was guilty. I ran because I was right." "But the risks," Evelyn began. "We understand the risks better than anyone," Marie interrupted. "We've lived with them every day. But there comes a point when hiding becomes its own prison." Carmen leaned toward her camera. "Mr. Hartwell protected us when no one else would. He gave his life for this cause. We owe it to him to finish what he started." A younger man spoke up. "Teddy always said that someday we'd reach a tipping point when the cost of staying hidden would exceed the cost of coming forward. I think we've reached that point." Evelyn looked at these faces, some clear, some shadowed, all carrying the burden of truths too dangerous to tell. In their eyes, she saw the same courage that must have driven Teddy all these years. "If we do this," she said slowly, "we need a plan that protects all of you. Teddy believed you would find a way," Marie said simply. Rosa stepped forward. "I'll help. For Maria, for all the others who didn't make it to safety." Joseph nodded. "We stand with you, Evelyn, all of us." Evelyn straightened her shoulders, Teddy's widow transforming before their eyes into something new, a guardian of his legacy, a protector of his community. "For Teddy," she said quietly. "For Maria, for all the ones who couldn't run fast enough." As if on cue, an alarm began to sound throughout the facility. Joseph rushed to a nearby monitor, his expression darkening. "We have a security breach," he announced. The alarm wailed through the communications center as Joseph frantically checked security monitors. Multiple red warnings flashed across the screens. "What's happening?" Evelyn demanded. "Multiple security breaches," Joseph reported grimly. "Not just physical entry. Our systems are under cyber attack." Marie's voice came urgently. "Joseph, activate protocol blackout, now." Without hesitation, Joseph entered a complex sequence into the main terminal. The alarm stopped abruptly, and the facility lights dimmed momentarily before returning to normal. Protocol blackout shuts down external connections and activates our backup systems, he explained to Evelyn and Rosa. On the communication screens, Marie addressed the other survivors. "Everyone initiates your personal safety protocols. Move to your secondary locations immediately. Communication blackout for the next 6 hours. Rendezvous on the emergency channel at 2100 hours. One by one, the screens went dark as the survivors disconnected. Only Marie remained. "Evelyn, you need to access the command center immediately," she instructed. "Joseph will show you how to activate Teddy's contingency plans." As Marie's screen went dark, Joseph led Evelyn and Rosa quickly through the corridors to the facility's main command center, a room they hadn't yet visited, located deep within the complex. Inside, wall-to-wall monitors displayed various systems, security feeds, environmental controls, communication networks, and something labeled Dead Man's Switch. Joseph immediately went to work at the central console. "We have 3 overlapping crises," he explained. "First, cyber intrusion. They're attempting to trigger the data purge protocol. Data purge? Rosa asked. A safety feature Teddy built in case the sanctuary was compromised, Joseph explained. It would erase all digital evidence and sever connections to the survivor network. It's designed to protect everyone's identities, but if triggered now, we'd lose everything we need to expose Meridian. A countdown appeared on one of the screens. 24-0, ticking down second by second. That's our first deadline, Joseph said. 24 hours before the automatic purge completes. I've slowed it down, but I can't stop it completely. What's the second crisis? Evelyn asked. Legal seizure. Joseph pulled up documents on another screen. Court filings, emergency orders, property liens. Meridian has obtained emergency remediation authority. Their crews arrive at dawn Monday to take possession of the property. A second countdown appeared, 36, 12. 36 hours until they're legally authorized to bulldoze everything, Rosa muttered. And the third crisis? Evelyn asked. Joseph's expression darkened further. The survivors. We've intercepted communications indicating Meridian has located several of their safe houses. They're moving teams into position now. How many survivors are at immediate risk? Evelyn demanded. At least 12 have been compromised. The others are in danger if they attempt to relocate. Joseph brought up a map showing locations across the western United States, red dots pulsing at various points. Meridian is mobilizing resources we've never seen before. This is a coordinated extermination plan. Evelyn stared at the 3 countdowns, each representing a different aspect of the same existential threat. We need to warn them. We can't, Joseph interrupted. Communication blackouts are our only protection right now. If we reach out, we expose their locations. Marie will handle the survivor network. Our job is to secure the evidence and develop a response plan. A new alert flashed on the security monitors. Approaching vehicle, main entrance. The cameras showed a sleek black SUV pulling up to the facility's entrance. A woman in an impeccable business suit emerged, her posture radiating authority. She looked directly at the security camera as if she knew exactly where it was hidden. That's Helena Vance, Joseph said, his voice tight with anger. Meridian's chief operating officer. She came personally? Rosa asked in disbelief. This is their endgame, Joseph replied. The intercom system crackled to life. Helena Vance's voice filled the command center, cultured and calm. Mrs. Hartwell, I know you're in there. I'd like to speak with you. I'm unarmed and alone, as your security systems can verify. This doesn't need to become any more unpleasant than it already is. Evelyn looked to Joseph, who shook his head firmly. It's a trap. She knows I'm here, Evelyn said, and she came alone. That suggests she wants to negotiate or manipulate you, Rosa countered. These people killed my daughter. They killed your husband. You can't trust anything she says. Another alert sounded, this one from the system labeled Dead Man's Switch. A message appeared. Activation requires authentication. Biometric confirmation needed. What is this? Evelyn asked. Teddy's final safeguard, Joseph explained. If all else failed, he created a network of secure information drops with 47 journalists around the world. One signal from this system, and every piece of evidence is simultaneously released to all of them. Why hasn't it been activated? It requires his biometric authentication. Or, Joseph looked at her meaningfully, yours, as his designated successor. The intercom crackled again. Mrs. Hartwell, I understand this is overwhelming. You've been thrust into a situation not of your making, but there are aspects to this story you haven't heard yet. I'm offering you a chance to resolve this matter with minimal further damage to all parties. Evelyn considered her options. The 3 countdowns continued their relentless progress. Whatever decision she made would affect not just her life, but the lives of 34 people who had already suffered too much. I'll speak with her, she finally decided, but not alone, and not without precautions. Joseph reluctantly agreed to escort Helena to a neutral meeting area within the facility, a conference room with multiple exits and security overrides. Rosa insisted on being present as well, her eyes hard with the memory of her daughter. Helena Vance entered the room with the confidence of someone accustomed to power. Her tailored suit and perfectly styled hair stood in stark contrast to Evelyn's travel-worn appearance. Yet it was Evelyn who controlled the room, seated at the head of the conference table with Rosa and Joseph flanking her. "Mrs. Hartwell," Helena began, "first, let me offer my condolences on your husband's passing. Theodore was a brilliant man whose heart device was hacked by your company," Evelyn replied. "That's quite an extraordinary claim, one that would be exceptionally difficult to prove in any court." "We're not in court," Rosa interjected. "Yet." Helena's gaze shifted briefly to Rosa, then back to Evelyn. "I understand. Emotions are running high. That's precisely why I wanted to speak with you directly. There's a solution here that can benefit everyone." "I'm listening," Evelyn said. "Meridian is prepared to establish a foundation in your husband's name, the Theodore Hartwell Environmental Justice Fund. Initial funding of $250 million, with another $50 million annually for the next decade. The foundation would support environmental protection initiatives, whistleblower protection programs, and community health monitoring in areas affected by industrial activity. Additionally, we're prepared to offer lifetime financial support to the individuals currently under your husband's protection. New identities, relocation to countries beyond our reach, comfortable stipends for life, no pursuit, no questions asked." "In exchange for what?" Evelyn asked. "All evidence, all records, complete confidentiality agreements, and the sanctuaries themselves for proper environmental remediation." Helena smiled thinly. "Your husband created something admirable, Mrs. Hartwell, but ultimately unsustainable. People can't live in hiding forever. We're offering them and you a way out. Clean, simple, financially secure. And if I refuse, then the legal machinery already in motion will continue. The sanctuaries will be seized through entirely legal means. The evidence, which would be inadmissible in court due to how it was obtained, will be lost in the process. And the people your husband was protecting will remain in perpetual danger, moving from safe house to safe house until they make a mistake, as they inevitably will." She leaned forward. "Theodore understood the reality of power, Mrs. Hartwell. That's why he created this elaborate network in the first place. He knew that conventional channels offered no real protection against organizations like Meridian. I'm simply offering you a more humane resolution than the one that's currently unfolding." Evelyn studied Helena's face. "You murdered my husband." "I had nothing to do with Theodore's tragic passing," Helena replied. "But I understand why you might want someone to blame." "And Maria Delgado?" Rosa asked. "My daughter whose brake lines were cut. Was that a tragic passing too?" "I'm not familiar with that name." "Liar," Rosa hissed. Helena turned back to Evelyn. "The offer is time-limited, Mrs. Hartwell. Meridian's board meets tomorrow at noon to finalize our approach to this situation. I've advocated for this generous solution. Others prefer more conventional legal remedies." She stood, straightening her already immaculate suit. "You have until noon tomorrow to decide. The documents are here for your review." She placed a business card on top of the portfolio. "My private number. Call me when you've made your decision." As Joseph escorted Helena out, Evelyn and Rosa examined the documents. The offer was meticulously detailed: the foundation structure, the financial arrangements for survivors, the confidentiality terms. It had clearly been prepared well in advance. "They've been planning this since before Teddy died," Evelyn observed. "It's blood money," Rosa said flatly. Joseph returned, his expression grim. "She's gone, but we detected additional vehicles on the perimeter during her visit. They're watching the facility." "What do the survivors think of Helena's offer?" Evelyn asked. "Marie would never accept it," Joseph replied. "None of them would. They didn't go into hiding to get rich. They did it because they believe the truth matters." Evelyn turned to the wall of monitors, where the 3 countdowns continued their inexorable progress. The data purge would complete in 22 hours and 17 minutes. Meridian's legal seizure would begin in 34 hours and 29 minutes, and somewhere across the western states, Meridian teams were closing in on people whose only crime had been telling the truth. "They're offering us a devil's bargain," she said quietly. "Comfort and safety in exchange for silence. Exactly what they offered my daughter before they killed her," Rosa said bitterly. Evelyn thought of Teddy, his secret life, his relentless commitment to protecting these people, his ultimate sacrifice. What would he do at this moment? She already knew the answer. "We're not taking their offer," she decided, "but we need a plan, one that protects the survivors while exposing Meridian, and we need it before those countdowns reach 0. Joseph nodded. "Teddy said you'd choose truth over comfort. He was right about you." "I hope so," Evelyn said, staring at Helena's business card. "Because we're about to risk everything on a third option she didn't offer us." Dawn painted the mountains in gold and crimson as Evelyn. Rosa and Joseph gathered in the command center. None had slept more than a few hours, sustained by determination and strong coffee. The evidence from Teddy's hidden room was spread across the conference table. Documents, flash drives, medical records, financial statements. "The communication blackout lifts in 20 minutes, Joseph said. "Marie and the others will reconnect then." Evelyn nodded, reviewing her hastily assembled plan one more time. The countdowns continued their relentless progress. 14 hours until data purge completion, 26 hours until Meridian's bulldozers arrived. "Are we sure about this?" Rosa asked. "Once we start, there's no going back." "I'm sure," Evelyn replied. "Teddy spent 20 years building this network. I won't let it end with a payoff and a cover-up." The secure communication system chimed, indicating incoming connections. One by one, the survivors rejoined, some from new locations, others visibly tense but safe. Marie's face appeared on the central screen. "We've lost contact with 3 people," she reported. "Dr. Alvarez, Thomas Chen, and Sophia Williams. They missed the check-in. We have to assume they've been compromised." "All the more reason to move quickly," Evelyn said, addressing the assembled faces. "I've developed a plan, but it requires your unanimous agreement. Everyone will be taking significant risks." Over the next hour, Evelyn outlined her strategy, a multi-layered approach that would turn Meridian's own tactics against them. The survivors listened intently, occasionally asking questions or suggesting refinements. "It's audacious," Carmen Espinosa said, "but it could work. The key is coordination," Evelyn emphasized. "Every piece must move in perfect sequence. If we're even slightly off, Meridian will have time to counter." The vote was quick and unanimous. Despite the danger, there was a palpable sense of relief among the survivors. After years of hiding, they were finally taking action. "Let's break into teams," Marie suggested, each focused on a specific aspect of the plan. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of focused activity. Evelyn worked with a small team of survivors with legal expertise to prepare the evidence packages, curated selections of documents tailored to specific journalists, lawmakers, and regulatory agencies. Rosa and Joseph coordinated with survivors who had technical skills, preparing the digital infrastructure needed to distribute information securely and simultaneously across multiple platforms. Marie organized the survivors themselves, ensuring each person understood their role and had contingency plans if things went wrong. By midnight, everything was ready. The data purge countdown showed just 2 hours remaining. They had managed to slow it but couldn't stop it completely. Whatever they didn't save in the next 120 minutes would be permanently lost. "It's time to activate the dead men's switch," Joseph said. Evelyn placed her palm on the biometric scanner. The system hummed, then flashed green with a message. "Primary authentication accepted. Secondary authentication required." "What's the secondary authentication?" Evelyn asked. Joseph looked equally puzzled. "Teddy never mentioned a second step," the system prompted. "Please answer the authentication question. Where did you first say, 'I love you' to Theodore Hartwell?" Evelyn smiled despite her exhaustion. "The Morgan Library in New York," she answered. "Third floor, rare manuscript room, in front of a first edition of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice." The system processed her answer, then displayed, "Authentication complete. Dead man's switch active. 47 information packages prepared for distribution, awaiting final command. 47 journalists in 28 countries, Joseph explained. Each will receive a unique portion of the evidence, ensuring no single person has the complete picture, but collectively, they have everything. And Meridian can't possibly stop them all, Rosa added. Evelyn turned to the assembled survivors on the video screens. Is everyone in position? One by one, they confirmed their readiness. Some looked afraid, others determined, all committed to the plan they had created together. Then let's begin, Evelyn said. She lifted her phone and dialed the number Helena Vance had left. Helena answered on the first ring. Mrs. Hartwell, have you reached a decision? I have, Evelyn replied. I'd like to meet to discuss the terms of your offer. I'm pleased to hear that, Helena said. Shall we say 8 a.m. at your facility? I can bring the final paperwork. Actually, I was thinking of somewhere more public, the Grand Summit Hotel in Sheridan. Their restaurant serves an excellent breakfast. A pause. That's unusual, but acceptable. 8 a.m. in the main restaurant. One more thing, Evelyn added. I'll be bringing a guest, Rosa Delgado. I believe her daughter Maria's case should be included in our agreement. Of course. Whatever brings this matter to a satisfactory conclusion. Excellent. See you at 8, Ms. Vance. The Grand Summit Hotel's restaurant buzzed with the usual morning activity, business travelers having meetings over coffee, tourists planning their day in the mountains. Evelyn and Rosa sat at a table near the windows, offering a clear view of the parking lot and entrance. At precisely 8 a.m., Helena Vance entered, accompanied by two men in dark suits who took positions near the door. She approached Evelyn's table with a professional smile, leather portfolio in hand. Mrs. Hartwell, Ms. Delgado. Thank you for meeting me. She sat gracefully. I'm glad we could arrange this civilized discussion. Civilized, Rosa repeated. An interesting word choice. Helena ignored the comment, turning to Evelyn. I trust you've reviewed the documents I provided? The terms are quite generous. I have, Evelyn replied. And I have some questions about the specifics. But first, I'd like to clarify something. She placed her phone on the table, screen facing up. This conversation is being recorded. I hope that's not a problem. Helena's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. I don't see why it would be, though it does suggest a certain lack of trust. Trust should be earned, Ms. Vance. Meridian hasn't done much to earn mine. Let's discuss the foundation first, Evelyn continued. $250 million is indeed generous, but I'm curious about the oversight structure. Your proposal gives Meridian majority control of the board. Standard practice for corporate foundations, Helena replied smoothly. It ensures alignment with our broader environmental mission. Ah, yes, your environmental mission. Evelyn opened a folder. Like the mission that led Meridian to dump perfluoroalkyl chemicals in the Blackwater River for 12 years. Or the mission behind the toxic waste storage in abandoned mines near reservation lands in Arizona. Helena's expression didn't change. Those are unsubstantiated allegations. If such evidence existed, it would have been presented to proper authorities long ago. Like the evidence Maria Delgado was gathering before her convenient accident? Rosa asked. I told you before, I'm not familiar with that name. A hint of impatience breaking through her professional veneer. That's strange, Evelyn said, considering your company paid for surveillance on her for 6 months before her death. She slid a document across the table, a Meridian invoice for target monitoring services with Maria's name clearly visible. Mrs. Hartwell, we came here to discuss a mutually beneficial resolution, not to rehash conspiracy theories. If you're not serious about our offer— Oh, I'm very serious, Evelyn interrupted. Just not about accepting your blood money. She glanced at her watch, then turned her phone screen toward Helena. On it was a simple display, a countdown showing 0, 2, 0, 2, 0, 2. In 2 minutes, 47 journalists around the world will simultaneously receive portions of my husband's evidence against Meridian. Each package is unique, containing different aspects of your company's crimes. Collectively, they tell the complete story. You're bluffing. The New York Times, The Guardian, Le Monde, Der Spiegel, Al Jazeera, the Sydney Morning Herald, Evelyn recited calmly, plus 41 others, all receiving their packages in. She checked the phone. 1 minute, 53 seconds. Helena glanced toward her security men, who had tensed visibly. Whatever you think you're doing, it won't work. Those journalists will need to verify everything. Their legal departments will take weeks to approve publication. By then, we'll have injunctions in place. Perhaps, Evelyn conceded, but the evidence is quite compelling and very specific. The medical records show your PackLead program developing methods to remotely manipulate cardiac devices. The financial trails connecting Meridian to 11 accidental deaths of sanctuary founders. The profit analyses show how much money you've made destroying properties like Blackwater Ranch. Stop this, now. We can renegotiate terms. It's too late for that, Rosa said. And in case you're thinking of having your men do something unfortunate to us right here in this restaurant, she nodded toward the windows, where news vans were pulling into the parking lot, we've invited some local media to hear our story. Evelyn checked her phone again. 45 seconds. This is a serious mistake, Mrs. Hartwell. You have no idea the forces you're aligning against yourself. Actually, I do, Evelyn replied. I've spent the past 3 days learning exactly what Meridian is capable of. The question is, do you understand what's about to happen to your company? These accusations won't stand up, Helena insisted. We have the best legal team in the country. It's not just accusations, Evelyn corrected. It's documentation, financial records, internal memos, medical data, and testimonies. 34 people ready to come forward with their stories. Testimonies from criminals and fugitives, Helena scoffed. Including my husband? Evelyn asked quietly. The renowned architect whose heart device was hacked 3 days after he completed compiling evidence against your company. I think people will find his testimony quite credible. The phone chimed softly. The countdown had reached 0. It's done, Evelyn said. As if on cue, Helena's phone began buzzing insistently. She glanced at it, her expression hardening as she saw the cascade of incoming messages. You've made an enemy today, she said. No, Evelyn corrected. I've exposed one that already existed. Helena turned to leave. At the door, she paused and looked back. This isn't over. Actually, Ms. Vance, Rosa called after her. For you, it is. As Helena exited, local reporters began entering the restaurant, cameras and microphones ready. Evelyn's phone rang. Joseph, calling from the sanctuary. It worked, he reported, excitement breaking through his usually calm demeanor. All 47 packages were delivered. The journalists are already reaching out for verification and additional information. And the survivors? Evelyn asked. All safe. Marie has activated the emergency relocation protocol, moving everyone to secure locations until the initial media storm passes. Thank you, Joseph. We'll head back to the sanctuary as soon as we're done here. Rosa was already speaking with the local reporters, giving them a preview of the story that was about to break internationally. Evelyn watched her. This woman who had lost her daughter to Meridian's ruthlessness, now playing a crucial role in exposing their crimes. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Teddy would be so proud of you. M.R.B. Marie Running Bear, reaching out from wherever she had relocated to coordinate the survivors. For the first time since Teddy's death, Evelyn felt a sense of peace amid the chaos. They had chosen truth over comfort, courage over safety. As the reporters gathered around, eager for her statement, Evelyn thought of Teddy's words from his final message. This was my fight, not yours. He had been wrong about that. It had always been their fight. They had just been fighting from different positions. 6 months later, Evelyn stood in the restored Blackwater Valley, watching as construction crews worked on new foundations. The spring air carried the scent of fresh-cut lumber and possibility. Where once stood a hidden sanctuary, a vibrant community was emerging in the open, homes and facilities for people who no longer needed to hide. Hard to believe it's the same place, Rosa remarked. She had become a constant presence in Evelyn's life, their shared purpose forging a bond that transcended their different backgrounds. Teddy always said this land would someday be a true community, not a hiding place, Evelyn replied. The 6 months since their confrontation with Helena Vance had unfolded with dizzying speed. The coordinated release of evidence to journalists worldwide had created precisely the avalanche effect they'd hoped for. Major news outlets had broken the story simultaneously, making it impossible for Meridian to contain. The most damaging revelations had come from the medical evidence. 3 independent experts confirmed that the PACLAD program had developed methods to remotely manipulate cardiac devices in ways that could cause fatal malfunctions. Financial records revealed Meridian's complex web of shell companies used to acquire sanctuary properties after eliminating their corridors. Protectors, the profit analysis showed they had made billions developing these lands into exclusive resorts after obtaining them through fraudulent environmental claims. Survivor testimonies had provided the human element that transformed technical evidence into a compelling narrative. Carmen Espinosa's story, beginning with her parents' murder 25 years earlier, had particularly resonated with the public, tracing Meridian's pattern of silencing whistleblowers across decades. "Have you heard from Joseph and Marie today?" Rosa asked. "They called this morning from Washington. The Senate committee is wrapping up. Marie says the senators actually seem interested in doing something, not just performing for the cameras. The congressional hearings had begun 3 months ago, investigating not just Meridian's crimes, but the broader issue of corporate retaliation against whistleblowers. Joseph and Marie Running Bear had become the public faces of the Sanctuary Network, testifying about the 25-year effort to protect people targeted for telling the truth. "And the criminal cases?" Rosa asked. "Moving forward," Evelyn replied. "The FBI has filed charges against 17 Meridian executives so far, including Helena Vance. Her trial starts next month." Within weeks of the exposure, Meridian's stock had collapsed, and the company had filed for bankruptcy protection. Its assets were being sold off, with a substantial portion placed in a court-supervised fund for victim compensation. "I still can't believe Luis agreed to testify," Rosa remarked, referring to Carmen's brother who had worked for Meridian. "Finding out that his parents' deaths weren't an accident changed everything for him," Evelyn said. "Carmen says they're rebuilding their relationship slowly. 25 years is a lot of time to make up for." They watched as a truck delivered materials to what would become the community center, the heart of the new Blackwater Valley development. The Hartwell Foundation, established with Teddy's life insurance money and supplemented by donations that had poured in after the story broke, now owned the land. Its mission was transforming the former sanctuary into a research and education center focused on corporate accountability and environmental justice. "The first resident families move in next month," Evelyn noted. "Former sanctuary residents who want to be part of building something new." Maria would have loved this place. This is what she was fighting for. Truth in the open, not hidden away. A small memorial garden near the community center would honor those who hadn't lived to see this day: Teddy, Maria, and others who had died protecting the truth. Their stories would be taught in the education center, ensuring future generations understood the cost of the Sanctuary Network. Evelyn's phone rang, Janet calling from Atlanta, where she was overseeing the conversion of Teddy's architectural firm into a nonprofit that designed sustainable communities. "How's the mountain air?" Janet asked. "Rejuvenating," Evelyn replied. "How are things there?" "Busy. The applications for the Whistleblower Protection Program are overwhelming. We've received over 300 in the past month alone." This was perhaps the most significant outcome of their exposure of Meridian, a national conversation about how society treats those who speak uncomfortable truths. The Hartwell Foundation had established a legal defense fund and support network for whistleblowers, providing an alternative to hiding. "We'll need to expand the program again," Evelyn said. "Already working on it," Janet replied. "Oh, and that reporter from the New Yorker called again. She's persistent about doing your profile. Tell her what I always say. This isn't about me. It's about the people who lived in hiding for years and the ones who died trying to expose the truth. After ending the call, Evelyn and Rosa walked down toward the construction site. Workers nodded respectfully as they passed. Many were former residents of the sanctuary, now employed rebuilding the community they had once fled to in fear. Marie and Joseph's house was taking shape near the edge of the property, a retirement home for the couple who had dedicated their lives to protecting others. "Have you decided about the Washington job?" Rosa asked as they inspected the foundation for what would become Evelyn's own home in the valley. The newly formed Whistleblower Protection Commission had offered Evelyn a leadership role. The position would give her significant influence in shaping national policy on corporate accountability and witness protection. "I'm still considering it," Evelyn replied. "Part of me wants to stay here, building what Teddy started. But another part recognizes that we need systemic change." "You could do both," Rosa suggested. Indeed, many of the former sanctuary residents had taken on key roles in the Hartwell Foundation, their unique experiences informing its work. Carmen Espinoza headed the legal division. Daniel, the former Meridian lawyer, directed the corporate ethics program. Others contributed their specialized knowledge in medicine, technology, and security. Their skills, once used to survive in hiding, were now being applied to transform the systems that had forced them underground in the first place. "Maybe you're right," Evelyn conceded. They reached the central building, the original sanctuary hub, now repurposed as the Foundation's headquarters. Inside, the Wall of Heroes remained, though it had been expanded to include all those who had contributed to exposing Meridian's crimes. Teddy's portrait held a central position alongside Maria Delgado and others who had given their lives. Evelyn paused before her husband's image. "Sometimes I still can't believe he kept this secret for 20 years. Rosa squeezed her shoulder gently. "He protected you the only way he knew how. And now I'm protecting his legacy the only way I know how." In a quiet corner of the building, they had preserved Teddy's evidence room as a historical archive. Researchers and journalists could access it by appointment, studying the meticulous documentation of corporate crimes and the Sanctuary Network's response. Next door, a new monitoring center tracked corporate environmental violations and whistleblower retaliation cases worldwide. This was the Foundation's early warning system, identifying situations before they escalated to the point where people needed to disappear. As they left the building, Evelyn noticed a school bus arriving at the temporary visitor center. A group of high school students filed out, part of the educational program that brought young people to learn about corporate accountability and ethical decision-making. "The next generation," she said, watching the teenagers gather around their guide, a former sanctuary resident who now shared his story openly. "They'll face their own battles," Rosa observed, "but hopefully with better tools than we had." The truth of that statement struck Evelyn deeply. What Teddy had built in secret, a network of protection for those targeted for speaking truth, they were now building in the open. The very existence of the Hartwell Foundation and the new Blackwater Valley community sent a powerful message. Truth-telling could be safer, more profitable, and more respected than complicity in wrongdoing. As evening approached, residents and construction workers began gathering for the weekly community dinner, a tradition carried over from the sanctuary days. Tables were set up in the open air. Joseph and Marie would be returning from Washington tomorrow. The other survivors, no longer in hiding, would be arriving throughout the week for the Foundation's first annual conference on corporate accountability. Among them would be the three people they had feared lost during the final days of the sanctuary: Dr. Alvarez, Thomas Chen, and Sophia Williams. They had managed to evade Meridian's teams and gone completely off-grid until the media exposure made it safe to emerge. The sun began to set behind the Nydia mountains, painting the valley in gold and purple. Construction equipment stood silhouetted against the blazing sky, frames of new homes promising a future where truth could thrive in daylight. "It's not what Teddy originally built," Evelyn said softly, taking in the transformed landscape. "But I think it's what he always hoped for." Rosa nodded. "Not a hiding place, but a beacon." As community members called them to join the dinner, Evelyn took one last look at the valley, stretching before her, no longer a forbidden ranch but a living legacy to the power of truth and the courage of those who protect it.